you had told me 5 years ago that we could do $1 million in revenue, I'd be like, no freaking way.
Mhm.
Like whenever I was freelancing, it's like $150,000 was I think my peak year, and it's
Yeah.
like that was fine. It's acceptable. That's what I knew.
And you were grinding
Um,
probably to get that
yeah,
too.
and you're grinding.
Yeah.
And it's crazy though. It is the same effort. Like I'm not working any harder now than I was then, but it
Yeah.
is reframing how you're spending that time and what you're putting that effort in that changes everything. I mean, our average project that we were selling whenever you came on was somewhere between $3,500 to $5,500. And I mean, now I'd say we're probably pushing the $20 to $35,000 for like, and those are not huge campaigns. Like that's like we're going and covering a conference or something. We're really finding like what's that value niche, especially in the med tech industry, that there's such a need for storytelling.
For sure.
And yeah, it's been incredible to just see some of those things unlocked and just it reframed what's possible for us.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Landon Rhodes, and today I've got my good friend and client, Mason Geiger, on the show. How you doing today, bro?
So good, Landon. Great to be able to sit down and be able to carve out some time. We can get this scheduled.
Absolutely. You guys have been busy and killing it and traveling all over the world.
Yeah.
It's been so fun to watch. And I love to kind of kick these off by giving our audience a little bit of kind of backstory on you, your business, that sort of thing. So kind of take us back and tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah. So a little intro. So again, Mason Geiger, CEO and co-founder here at Dream On Studios. We started Dream On Studios in 2021, but my kind of film background really, I mean, goes back to elementary school. I mean, that's whenever I made my first video on iMovie on a little iMac in third grade with the little, if you guys remember, like the colored, I think it was a pink old school iMac. And that's kind of where
Heck
it
yeah.
started. Just kind of saw what you could create through technology. I was homeschooled actually up until third grade, and we lived out on a farm, so it was like very little technology, and so like my eyes just were completely open to a whole new world. Coming into elementary school and having access to the computers, and yeah, it was just kind of through. Progressed through school, and then it was in high school where it really started to develop, and that was whenever I was in our radio and TV. We had a broadcast. I think we called it, I think it was just radio and TV then, but it was, we were doing a daily live broadcast, but then really I started to like get into doing sports highlights, which then turned into, we, we had a little probably too much freedom in high school where we were just kind of going all around town filming little skits and stuff. But it was a blast. I guess had a lot of room to create, and that's really where I kind of knew I'm like, man, there's something here. I want to pursue this. School was never really like, I enjoyed school and the relationships, but it's the whole idea of like standardized tests and writing papers and everything was just not I'm a very like hands-on learner and need to have the ability to try things out and fail and constantly kind of reiterating. And so, yeah, it was senior year that I just made the decision like, hey, I'm going to move to California. I had some family, lived out there in industry, and was going through some, my parents were going through a divorce at the time and just really needed to like break away from Warsaw's a fairly small community. And I'm like, I wanted to experience something outside of Warsaw. So kind of did the classic small town, getting out of here, never coming back.
Runaway story. Yep.
Yep. So that lasted about 2 years. Made it out to California and, went to LA recording school doing sound effects and ADR. I grew up playing piano, spent 16 years of my life. Playing,
Wow. I didn't know
concert piano. Yeah. So it's a really kind of sad thing that I really don't play anymore. And I don't even know if I could sit down and actually still play some of the stuff I was playing back then. But it was just I think that I was never naturally gifted at piano. It was like my mom and like just the work ethic that she drove into me, that it's like I just worked harder than anyone else. So as soon as I stopped practicing regularly, I lost it pretty quickly. But yeah, so that was just kind of like a big part of my life was music and exploring through that. And so I thought my kind of contribution to the film industry was going to be like the re-recording mixing. And so being able to do those final mixes on TV and film, and got connected in some great opportunities out there. I was working at 20th Century Fox doing sound effects and ADR, got to work on some larger movies. Really quickly, just through some of the connections I had out there, got to the point where I was like assist managing a ADR studio,
Wow.
and just, yeah, got to experience a lot, but also in those experiences quickly realized that this is not where like I wanted to spend and invest my life. Just kind of saw the writing on the walls with, you know, a lot of single older men, you know, if they had a family, it was, you know, broken for the most
Mm.
part, and just knew that's not really, yeah, where I wanted to be investing my time and energy. So made the decision to move back to Indiana, and went back working with the family construction business with, man, if
Oh,
you want to get humbled real quick, do
back
the
to it.
whole see you guys, never coming back. And then, yeah, 2 years later, back to work in construction.
Man.
But it was in that process too that I met Leah, and we started hanging out and just quickly realized I'm like, okay, like there's something special here. Went all in on pursuing her, and yeah, through that, being home, knowing it's like construction wasn't long term for me, I had no interest in taking over the family business. That I just saw a need in our community for video and storytelling. And I was actually sitting at the movie theater, which is ironic that it's like, I don't know, a stone throw away from where our studio is at now. That I'm sitting at the movie theater watching the ads that played before it, and I'm just like, these are so bad. And I'm like, if this is what, like, I mean, we're orthopedic capital of the world, ton of, you know, national and global companies based here in Warsaw, and I'm like, if this is how we're promoting and telling our story, there's an opportunity here.
Hmm.
So again, all my background really outside of, you know, coming up through school was in audio. And so I'm like, well, if I can take what I learned on set and seeing like these bigger productions and how they were, you know, moving the cameras and lighting and everything, if I can kind of take what I learned there and reproduce it, I think there's an opportunity. So bought a 5D Mark III and just
Yeah.
started just doing it, watching tons of YouTube videos and just constantly like seeking new ways to tell stories. And I mean, honestly, it started in the beginning, it wasn't even really storytelling yet. It was just seeing things from a different perspective. I was doing a lot of time lapse photography and nightscapes and just like trying to explore and see things that we, yeah, just from a new perspective that you may see from a normal day, but like your naked eye is not going to be able to capture these things. And
Hmm.
started to explore through that and got some opportunity to start doing some corporate films and then some weddings, which I'd never intended to be a wedding videographer, but I feel like it's just a rite of passage that you kind of have to do.
That's funny.
Um, but I mean, it was great though, because I learned so many like, you have to problem solve and be able to handle stressful situations when you're
Yeah.
doing weddings and just like client interactions and all those pieces. And yeah, so I'm looking back now, I'm super grateful for, you
Yeah.
know, those moments, and then just learning how to craft and tell a story kind of differently. And it was actually through those wedding films that got me most of my corporate projects at that time,
Hmm.
because they were seeing what I was doing with, they're like, man, if you can do that with a wedding, like, can you do that for my business and like help them craft that story? And about 3 years into that I was like, I was able to say, all right, I don't have to do any more weddings, and I can just focus on the corporate, you know, storytelling, doing some documentaries and stuff. And it was just, yeah, everything was just kind of like this organic, just kind of rolled, and focusing on like, I mean, I will say too, look, it's always that like, it's very humbling to look back at some of those initial projects
Dude,
and
yeah.
be like, man, like I cannot believe that someone paid for that. And I feel so bad. But it was like, again, though, at the time, it was, yeah,
It
it's
was
just
the best
part of
you
the
knew how to
like,
do though, you know?
yeah, it was the best I knew how to do, and it was still better than what they expected.
Yeah.
And so that's the like, just constantly trying to seek, you know, providing as much value for them, making an enjoyable process, and just, and I was like, looking back, most of the failures were because I was like trying out something new, because
Mm.
it's like I was just always trying to like, how do we light this differently? And sometimes I went way too creative with it, and I'm like, that just, yeah, got learning how to edit yourself is a really good skill to have.
That's
Of,
good. That's
yeah,
a word, man. Editing
yeah,
yourself, not your videos, editing
yes.
yourself.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good.
we now it's like really try to push that on our team of it's not what's our creative vision for a project, it's what's in the best interest of the client and going to serve them the best,
Mm,
because we very quickly can go into the like we have this big vision for what it could be, and it's editing that down to be like, okay, but what's going to serve them best.
that's good.
um yeah, so yeah, through that process kind of grew, and then Matt and I, we connected up. We had someone who kind of played matchmaker, so my business partner now, Matt Dool, he co-founded Dream On with me, and yeah, we started working together in 2018, and had a friend who, Matt was kind of stepping out of a church role, getting back into video. He's got a long, history and sports and news
Yeah.
broadcast, and
So much experience,
just
dude. Like,
yeah. And so it's like being able to take his experience and just producing, and he's a little bit older, and being able to take, like, I was kind of the established video guy here locally, and yeah, Keith Sampson just put us together and was like, hey, like, you guys need to work together. So he literally hired us both onto a project, and that was like,
oh,
hey, you
that's
guys are going to
funny.
go to Detroit, do this project together. And yeah, Matt and I had a blast, and we got back from that, we're like, hey, this is actually like really fun. And it's like, these are the things you love doing. This is what I love doing. And there's like a synergy there. So yeah, started working together kind of independently and just working out of the same office, subcontracting each other onto different projects that we were doing. And then in 2021, one of our clients, Network Partners, Tim Early was the CEO, and was just saw the potential that video had, and just like empowering his team. And they were a decentralized company, and yeah, came to us and was like, hey, we're kind of your number one client right now. What does it look like? He always goes back and tells the story. If he asks where's our studio, and I said the trunk of our car,
Yeah.
because like, we had a small office space, but it was very much like we
Right.
were just on location
Yep.
traveling, and our studio was wherever we showed up, and we turn it into a studio space.
Yeah. For anybody,
And so,
me knowing what that looks like and how awesome your
right.
studio is now, like they're definitely not doing that anymore.
Yes,
That's cool.
yeah.
So Tim was, that was, yeah, definitely another big catalyst moment for you
Yep.
guys too.
Yeah, no, because he came to us and he's like, "Hey, I've got this building. We're in a little. There's like 5 kind of duplex office spaces here in our office park that we're in, and he had just gotten this 2160 building,
Are
and
we
it
in the
was
studio? Are you in the studio right
we're
now?
in the studio right
I
now.
didn't know if like you had this as like your office because I know you have like some
No,
wood paneling in the office, but
yep,
we're really doing it in the studio. That's great.
yeah, we
Love it.
are. We're in the little like side
Awesome.
studio area over here.
Love it.
Yeah. So came in, it was just like a blank canvas drop ceiling, tile floor. It was like a cube farm for one of the orthopedic companies. Their marketing department was in here before. And yeah, I mean, we spent probably 9 months just mapping out the space and trying to figure out how to, it's about 4,300 square feet. And we're like, how do we make this if we're going to turn it into a studio, like, we want to do it right and make sure like I don't want cables like all over the place. And it's
Yeah.
just like a very like, I mean, we soundproofed it, and it was an investment and a labor of love, but it's pretty cool. This is where we're going to come into work every day now.
Yeah. No
So
doubt.
that was a long way to get
We'll
here,
have
but
to,
that's how we
if it's
got to
cool
dream
with you,
on.
I would love to share some like B-roll, even if it's just photo,
Oh,
that's fine too.
absolutely.
But I would
Yeah.
love like if your team has like really dope like B-roll to show you
Yep.
guys like just how epic this studio is. Because obviously you're just seeing a little square right now of Mason, but I
Right.
remember like going there in person and being like, this is insane. Like we're in Warsaw, Indiana right now. Like
Yep.
how many people are in your town?
Depends. I mean, we're roughly like 84,000,
Yeah.
and then and that's in Kosciuszko County as a whole. I think Warsaw is like 28,000,
Yeah,
maybe.
even
Don't
smaller
quote me on that.
in
Yeah.
Warsaw. But yeah, you guys have
Yeah.
kind of a couple different communities there that make that up. But
Yep.
dude, it's so cool not only meeting you and Matt, but also meeting Tim, getting an
Yeah.
opportunity to work with you guys on our guild day. That was like that was so fun. It was such an amazing
Yeah.
experience. And so that was back in April, what did we say? April 18th of 2023.
23. Yep.
Man, so we're coming up
Yeah.
on a
We're
couple
coming up on
years.
2 years.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I will say that we mark that day as like that was a game changer for us, of like everything changed that day.
Yeah.
And that was whenever we really identified who we were at the time, but who we wanted to become, and then set us on that plan forward. And so it's been yeah, just to see the growth that we've had as a team over the past 2 years, and then what we're now looking at for the next 2 and 3 years, like our BHAG 3 years out to be a $10 million company.
Heck yeah.
And it is yeah, it's possible. And we've got a
100%
plan to
possible.
get there. Yep.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges or struggles you guys were facing when, before we started working together?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for us was just Matt and I and our leadership roles. We came from being freelancers, solopreneurs, and
Mm-hmm.
now we have a team of 14 and we continue to grow. And it's that finding the balance of the in the business, on the business. Like we started from we're doing everything and that's just how we operate to now it's like, okay, what are the things that we strategically need to step out of and
Mm-hmm.
allow our team and train our team up in that. One thing that I've just so appreciated of our time together, Landon, is your ability. You're like the ultimate like chat GPT when it comes to leadership knowledge.
Thank
Of
you.
like, I feel like you just have this like wealth of like, I'm pretty sure you've read like every leadership book out there, but to be able to disseminate it down and know what's applicable to the problem that we're going through and how we can actually apply that has just been awesome. So like of just our biweekly calls and being able to just talk through some of these problems, and even like pipelines and products. There's stuff that I know we talked through back in the beginning that it's taken us a while to implement just because we're constantly reiterating and changing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the foundational knowledge in that now we're applying to some of these big deals that we're making now is just
Yeah.
I'm super excited for what 2025 holds for Dream On.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I remember coming in there and thinking, and when you guys kind of explained to me, they're like, hey, just so you're aware, these are some of the sizes of the companies of just around our zip code.
Yeah.
And it just like blew my mind. I'm like, you have such an opportunity here.
Mm-hmm.
And working with you guys are so tenacious. And like, if there's one word I would use to describe like your team, like you guys just like follow through. Like you
Mm-hmm.
specifically, like when you say like, hey, Landon, we're gonna go do this, and like, dude, it just gets done. And that's
Yeah.
for anybody that's watching this, that's a creative or an agency owner that wants to scale like that. As simple as that may sound, of just actually keeping your word and taking the advice
Mm-hmm.
from somebody who has been before you, because like so yeah, there was a lot that was learned in books, in mentorships, in paid coaching programs. Like we invested multiple six
Mm-hmm.
figures between my wife and I, multiple six figures in like mentors. And but then so much of it, dude, was like me learning from just sheer pain. And like
Yes.
I messed that up. And that's why I tell my clients and my wife too, I was like, I get so passionate about like when I'm convicted about something to tell you guys, I'm like, this isn't coming from theoretical knowledge. This is coming
Right.
from my hand was on this hot stove for like 3 days and I need you to
Yep.
not touch the hot stove. And
Yep.
it's truly like that experiential knowledge that allows you to be convicted on something and hold true to that, to where it gives you guys confidence. And I'm just like
Yep.
grateful that you guys actually take it and understand like, oh yeah, this is coming from experience, not just like theory. Because I think
Yes.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of like gurus and coaches out there that are like, hey, I took this course, I'm now going to coach you, and this is my theory on what I think might
Right.
work, right? And then
Yeah.
there's theory, and then there's actually having 12 staff and
Yep.
6 in-house editors. Like there's a difference. So I appreciate you
Yep.
sharing that. When
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, that is really what drew me to you initially was the seeing that you were probably 4 or 5 years down the road of where we were at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you've had the remote teams, you've had in-house teams, and the experiences and knowledge that you've learned from that. I'm like being able to bring you on as a coach and help guide us through some of those things. So we're not having to spend the next 4 or 5 years making those same mistakes. It's like, how do we and I'm always like, how do we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us? Like, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go through those same things. And so,
Dude,
constantly trying to find those around us, mentors, people who can help coach you through those things is just so important to development.
100%. Yeah, it is. It's everything. And I like so much of any of the success that I've had, like so much of that comes from the fact that like I had to go find other people who had done the thing that I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that were actively walking before me. I would love to just like give people some context because like I know the size of your company, you said 14 people. That's pretty serious
Yep.
numbers. And those are staff members. Those aren't just like kind of fly by night contractors. Those are real people, real employees.
Yeah.
What were some of the numbers like before we got started? So like revenue and then now comparatively to where we are today, just a couple years later, because you guys have had
Yeah.
an absolutely like meteoric growth since we met, which has been amazing. And
Yep.
I remember, so this is one of the coolest stories I remember. I don't know if you remember this day, but I remember when we were talking about there was a client. I'm not going to give like specifics just for privacy reasons, but
Yep.
there was a client that we were talking about like working on a deck for. That was we were putting it together like our 3 stack options of like 18,000 a month, 25,000, and like the numbers were just like
Yeah.
something that I personally in my own agency never actually tasted, and I never actually saw that. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, I'm like, this worked for me at like a 8 to 12K per month or 8 to 15K per month retainer, but like these retainers that they're looking at are absolutely insane. Like this is so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day when we were
I
like when you
do.
were putting
I
that in
do.
there?
Yeah. Well, I remember that because I remember first looking at those numbers and being like, "There's no way we're gonna land at $18,000 a month like retainer. Like, just
Yeah.
no way." And now it's like, yeah, it's insane to see what like where we started. I mean, our average probably project that we were selling whenever you came on was somewhere between $3,500 to $5,500. It's probably what we were looking at as like a project. And I mean, now I'd say, I mean, we've got a lot of different scales right now, but we're probably pushing the 20 to 30, $35,000 for like, and those are like not like huge like campaigns. Like that's like like we're going and covering a conference or something,
Yeah.
and it's minimal crew. Like we're really finding like what's that value niche, especially in
Hmm.
the med tech industry that we've just there's such a need for storytelling.
For sure.
And yeah, it's been incredible to just see some of those things unlocked and just it reframed what's possible for us. Like I'll
Hmm.
just say that.
For sure. I think you were pulling something up, or I don't know if you had
Yeah.
something on your computer, so I don't want to
Yeah.
stop you.
So I've got I'm going to give some numbers here. So 2022, before you guys came in, we our revenue for that year was $258,000.
Mason, what? I didn't know that. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that. That's
Yeah.
wild.
So that was like, yeah, that was the midst of the construction. Like we're building everything out. So it's
Yeah.
like that was pretty much like our core, like just starting with the existing clients that we had. And so our billable hours that we had that year with our team was just shy of 2,300 hours.
Hmm.
23 we went to 919,000 and just shy of 6,700 billable hours. And so this is like I could break it down by quarter, but I mean it's a pretty like you can see from like Q2 23 that it's been like I think we are now on our 8th quarter in a row of like record growth. Um, so yeah, so 23 we did 900 or just shy of 920,000, and then last year we did 1.6 with just shy of 10,000 billable hours, and we're on pace to do 2.6
Let's go, dude.
conservatively for this year.
Yeah, and that's
So
conservative, and that was
yeah,
before a lot of like the big.
we've got some really big opportunities in the works that I'm very excited about.
For sure, that'll make that I would say just from our conversations that would make hitting that goal kind of inevitable, but then potentially making that like your floor annually for this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. So for people that
Yeah.
are like, wondering like, does this stuff really work? Like, can I actually make, first of all, I bet I wanted to share, I'm so glad and grateful that you shared those numbers specifically because I think there's people that don't believe it's possible. Like they think about this model, they think about themselves. They're in that moment, Mason, where they're
Yeah.
like in the back of their car and their quote unquote studio is in the back of their car. Right. I was
Yeah.
there. I was living in a
Yep.
cockroach infested apartment, doing jobs for 3,000, $1,000, doing business card designs. If someone asked me to, anything, dude, because I could
Oh
do a
yeah.
lot.
You
Websites,
do whatever you can.
I was
Yep.
mainly
I
trying to
designed a
do,
menu at one of
yeah,
our local restaurants. It's like you
yeah.
do whatever you can to
For
get your name out there.
For sure. Yeah. And just for anybody that's in that phase right now, like I'm so glad you shared that because I want people to know that it's possible. Like
Mhm.
you really can, um, you really can do this. You really can build a big, great, successful business.
Yeah.
What would you say some of the keys were? And I appreciate you, crediting us with, a hand to have a hand in that level of success.
Mhm.
But what other things would you credit your success to that really helped you guys get on that path to rapid growth, but then also like stay on it and not fall off?
Yeah. I mean, it is the man, there's so many things. I mean, it is the I mean, one of our new like core values is mastery. And it's
Mm,
like we are consistently every day looking for that, like it's the 1% mindset. It's like being leading with curiosity and just constantly seeking ways to be better. Um, and that's not just, I think it's very easy to do that in technology and technique in your craft.
mm.
But as you start to get to this level, it was for me, it was the reframing of what I was putting my time and effort into. And you challenged me a lot on those of it's like, hey, you don't really need to be editing podcasts. I know you love it,
Oh, I
you
just
enjoy
remembered
it,
that
but that's
conversation
not, yeah, it's like, that is not a great use of your time.
because
I'll
you
say
had
I've given
12.
up all of our podcasts except for one.
I think it's the one that you like, the one
Yes.
that's like a personal
Yep.
connection, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember because you had 12. You were doing stuff like that at like with
Yeah. I mean, it
12
was
people.
insane.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
was
And it's
like
like,
swatting your hand, so to speak. Like, no,
yeah, it's
don't do
like you
that.
don't need to be doing that. But it's like we were in that like mindset of it's like billable hours. Like
Sure.
we have to be like grinding this out. And I think what has really freed us up in this last year and a half is it's releasing and reframe. I mean, there was a point where it was like, if we could do $1 million, like if you had told me 5 years ago that we could do $1 million in revenue, I'd be like, no freaking way.
Mm,
Like whenever I was freelancing, it's like $150,000 was I think my peak year, and it's
yeah.
like that was fine. That's acceptable. That's what I knew.
And you were grinding
Um,
probably to get that
yeah,
too.
and you're grinding,
Yeah.
and it's crazy though. It's the exact. I'm not even say it's the exact same. It is the same effort. Like I'm not working any harder now than I was then because I'm always giving my all. But it is
Yeah.
reframing how you're spending that time and what you're putting that effort in that changes everything. And so even for us, like setting our BHAG of like we want to be a $10 million company is because it forces us to it just reframes everything that we do because the decisions that you make if you're trying to get to 2 million versus trying to get to 10 million are very different.
So
And so I
good.
want to make sure that we're making the decisions and building the foundation out to be a $10 million company. And then it's like there isn't even a limit on that. And we don't want to be a $10 million company because first, like I don't. This is where I'm a really bad like entrepreneur. I don't care about the money. Like the money is just a byproduct of it's like I love the work and I'm
Yeah.
passionate about the stories that we get to tell and the impact that it has on the world around us. And it's those means just allow us like to be able to pour back into our community and to pour into telling stories that we may not have access to tell if we didn't have those like finances. And so it just opens up a whole new world. And so
Hmm.
yeah, I'm super excited for again what the future holds.
That's super good, dude. I love that. And even that mindset of like this isn't just about, trying to make a couple extra thousand a month so you can buy a Rolex or a Ferrari or a Lambo. You're building an
Yeah.
enterprise. You're building a legitimate asset that
Hmm.
in this space that you're in is going to continue to be worth more and more and more money because you guys have done such a great job of niching down into med tech.
Hmm.
So that was another huge thing that I noticed that like right when we kind of came in, you had some different opportunities, but then we had a
Hmm.
couple of these just like monstrous
Yeah.
opportunities, monstrous clients. How important has it been for you guys to niche down into a specific industry, but then also like adjusting your positioning? I know you've spent a lot of time and
Yeah.
money into developing that as well.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for us, like I'd say we have niche down in an area of our business. Like I'm still very passionate about being industry agnostic, because we can take the learnings that we have from these different industries and cross pollinate them. What has been the huge the game changer for us in this past year really has been finding strategic partners in those industries. So who has the network, but they don't have the how, and we can be the how to them. So it's like they can come in and cast the vision or the connections, but we can come in and actually facilitate that. So it's like, I mean, Jay's been our connector with MedTech Voice, and so he has gotten us into all these MedTech companies that have allowed us to really come in, and like our whole motto is like, hey, we're going to under promise and over deliver, which is very rare in the orthopedic space that we're finding out.
Yeah. And agency
so
in
just
general.
come in. Yeah. And so it's the coming in with that framing of like, we want to provide strategic solutions, not just video. It's like, whatever, like if you have a problem, we're going to find a way to help you get a solution for it. And it's opened up so many doors, and people it's fun because they feel seen and heard, and you see them get excited and they're proud of the work that it's like we're putting out. And so to get to see the thing that they do all day, every day, and they feel like they're throwing money at marketing agencies and it's just like this black hole that's not going anywhere, that we give them something tangible, that whenever they watch it, they're just like that's us. That's what we have been craving. That's just so energizing. So
That's
yeah, I'd say
super
a big thing is finding those strategic partners. And so we're really looking at these next 3 years as we grow to find more strategic partners in these other industries, that it's like, who are the trusted, because it's each industry has their own speak and they have their own just like way that they do business. And so to have someone who's like fully knowledgeable in agriculture and finance, and education and nonprofits, that it's like each one's unique, but the way that you tell the story isn't necessarily. And so it's being able to come in and help them, find a network, find those relationships, and just create a win-win opportunity for everyone.
Wow. Yeah, it's super good. And I remember when we were looking at that, we were kind of like, okay, we have these like massive silos of opportunity in these areas. We have a silo of, med tech, ag, mechanization, or industrial as well. And for anybody who's listening to this too, a lot of people, when they hear the word like niche down, they think, okay, well, that's it. I'm now relegated only to working with chiropractors for the rest of my life. And if you name your company that, like I have a really good friend who runs Chiro Candy, not really good friend. We just met each other, but he's awesome. And I really respect him. So Billy Sticker, if you run across this, you're awesome. I think your company's great. But Billy runs Chiro Candy, right? So they're a full service agency specifically in the chiropractic space. So like, if you name your company like something that's industry or niche specific like that, you're gonna be in that zone.
Yep.
But even then, the theories or the model still applies, right? Like you're still working with a huge segment of one specific market and saying like, I love what you said earlier. I'm going to solve all of these problems that you have. It's not just a video problem. It's not just this. It's not just that. Like, what are the solutions that you need? I will be a solutionary. I will go create them, and then I will sell them to you, which is awesome.
Yeah. Which is the big thing I'd say for any of the, like, for anyone who's watching this, don't get caught in the vendor trap of being a service provider. It's like you want to provide, like you want to be a strategic partner for your clients.
Yep.
That it is not because like we have been on these huge shoots or like massive conferences, and we are getting paid pennies compared to what they're paying their AV team. Their AV team, though, is very much seen as they are a service provider, they are a vendor, like they're kind of on the outside, and we have leadership coming up to us, engaging in conversations because we're helping them in these things. And like, if you want to grow your network, being able to like attach yourself and be a true partner for them and helping them win and make them the hero is gonna, move you down that field a heck of a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's like getting caught in the friend zone.
It is, dude. It's worse, probably worse than that. But that vendor trap is real because it basically, you start getting relegated to. people start, you know, instead of having a personal inside track relationship, which is what Alan Weiss in the book Million Dollar Proposals talks about, having that inside track relationship is so much leverage, because when you have the inside track relationship and you can go straight to the top, getting a decision made on like a small video contract of say $100,000 is literally like nothing to them, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, you may have been paid pennies comparatively to the AV team, but the AV team has what, 40 staff that they have to, or like contractors that they have to have, or union hands that have to be on board with all of that stuff.
Yep.
There's,
and honestly, too, that could be the last conference that they do with them. Like, it could just be a one-off.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you happen to be in the city that we were in, and so we worked with you on this one.
Yeah.
And it's like they are paying for us to travel and go to all of their events with them because we are their trusted partner.
Yep.
It's like, if we're doing a project, you're coming with us.
And that's a completely different relationship, and one that will continue to serve you for a really long time, because it's not just about the contract or the deal. It's about like, I'm a long-term like growth partner, like you said. You're positioned next to them in that way. So that's good. That's free game for anybody who's wanting to scale up their agency. Like, that is a move. And I remember doing that strategically, not knowingly. I wasn't like smart enough to know what I was doing, but I was definitely doing that. And then I would get into like a vein. Like, for me, it was like industrial work. I got into that vein, and then like, boom, like all these doors started opening, because they all talk and they're all friends. They're golfing together on the weekends saying, who's doing your video? Boom, 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 boom. And like, just like that, you get 4 or 5 clients, and that's exactly how that worked.
And it's so much more fun too, and like fulfilling, because you get to know that industry and like that company and the problems that they have. And so it's like the way that you approach telling their story is very different than a one-off. It's like, because you have built that relationship, you know what's important to them. You like, and it just, you feel so much better about the product that you're putting out, because you know that it's like, it's solving the problem for them.
That's super good. I want to ask you, do you have like a specific win or a moment that made you realize that like the stuff that we were teaching at the Wealthy Creative was working for you? Like, did you have like a specific moment where like, holy cow, like this is working for us, and this is going to change things?
I don't know if like, I don't think there's that's a good question. I don't know if there's like, I'm a big proponent, like, there is no silver bullet. There's just what's Hormozy say? There's no
1,000 golden
1,000 golden BBs. Yeah.
Right.
1,000 golden BBs. Like, yeah, that's true. There is no like, hey, if you do this one thing, that it's all going to fall in place. It is just these little iterative changes and pivots, and constantly just, just constantly learning. I mean, I remember it's like weird to go back to like whenever I was LA recording school. So it's a very hands-on program, and they put you in like first lab that you're in, you're sitting behind like a 64 channel console, and you have no idea what you're looking at. You just see knobs and switches and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're teaching you signal flow, and they're like, hey, we're going to like give this to you out of a fire hose, and it's not going to make sense for probably 3 months, but there's going to be a day whenever it clicks, and it's like everything that you've learned, you're like, I get it now.
Yep.
And I think that's what it's been like with us. If it's all these little steps and little things, and you have that one project or the one pitch that you give, and you see it like come to fruition, and you're just like, that's it. You're like, that's the model. And then you continue to iterate on that. But it is the like, you have those moments where, and I think for me, it really has been the way that we pitch proposals. And it's like being able, that's one part that I enjoy almost as much as like the final product, and like having someone see it and them feeling seen and heard, is in the proposal process. When you're doing that pitch, and they're just like, everything that you have on that board is everything that we need. And it's just like, cool. Like, we did our job in the discovery. It's like, we asked the right questions, and leveraging Fathom and AI is huge whenever you're doing those discovery calls. So highly recommend it if you are not using it, because it makes your life so much easier when you're writing proposals.
For sure. And for, again, for anyone who's listening to this, that's the sort of, that's definitely like a little golden BB for sure. It's like having the exact language that the client presents to you during discovery repositioned as a solution inside of the proposal. People literally are, I've heard people say, There's like clients we'll work with. They'll say, "Yeah, we just got like word back from a client, and they like thanked us for selling them this." I'm like, "Yeah, that's gonna become like a normal thing for you now.
Yep.
That like that won't go away because at the end of the day, there's so many people that they'll get on a call with like a creative or like an agency, and they'll just get a productized like deck." Which nothing wrong with productized offers, but there won't be any sort of process where you're actually listening to
Yeah.
them. And then they'll get like a pricing sheet is what I meant to say, not productized, but a
Yeah.
pricing sheet just shoved across the
Yep.
table and say, "Hey, this is what it is. Take it or leave it." And they're like, "Okay, I just spent all this time telling you all this stuff. And now I'm just kind of like a number
Yep.
to you."
Yep.
So that's a really powerful change that we encourage our clients to make that tends to
Yep.
just make them a lot of money and
Oh
make their
yeah.
clients super
Yeah.
happy. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, I would love to know, you know, you've had an opportunity to work with a lot of people. So this is kind of a two-part question. You have
Mhm.
an opportunity to work with a lot of people in terms of like you guys have gotten mentorship, I think, on like even like story brand stuff. You've done
Mhm.
incredible amount of like work on yourselves, and then you've gotten other people to come in. What do you feel like one thing that stood out about whether it be the community, curriculum, coaching of the Wealthy Creative, or something inside of that that really stood out to you and you feel like was, made an impact on the business?
Mhm. I mean, I think the biggest has just been our relationship, honestly, of like
Mm,
just being able to, like, I feel like most of the time it's almost like a little bit of a counseling session. Of it's like, hey man, catch me up. What are you going through? What's new? Like being able, I'm really bad at celebrating wins. I'm always like, hey, what's the next thing? And
mm,
you're like, you do a great job. Like, dude, like you crushed it, man. Like, let's take a second and like just appreciate where we're at.
yeah,
It's just been really, yeah, good. But yeah, again, I just appreciate the back and forth, the insights. I know I can always reach out and talk through like, hey, here's a big idea I've got. Is this, you know, am I crazy? Is there value to this? Is there like,
right.
am I, yeah, going a little off kilter here? And so just being able to have that sounding board, and again, someone who's been through so many things, and just as you continue to build your network, working with other creatives, and being able to like, hey, here's someone that I can connect with. I mean, we've had I think projects where we had someone who was like in Miami that we had a project that we
Yeah.
needed someone connected on, and you were able, like, we weren't able to facilitate, like, hey, like I've got a guy down there who's gonna be a great fit, and so you're able to connect us. And so just being able to leverage that network of creatives that you have, yeah, it's great to, there's power in network, and
No
do not
doubt.
underestimate that.
Yeah, no doubt. We started adding a ton of people actually from Florida. We have a bunch of people that have joined recently. So, which I'm not mad. If I end up going to Florida for some reason or another, leaving the frigid Nebraska weather,
Yep.
that's awesome, man. My final
Yeah.
question that I always like to ask
Yep.
people would be if somebody is on the fence about working with us over at the Wealthy Creative, what
Mhm.
would you say to that person? They're evaluating their options. What would you say to them?
You can't do it alone.
Hmm.
Like, it is a, you need support, and it's like, it is a financial commitment, but it will pay dividends in your business. And if you truly, I would say, actually, I'll put a challenge in this. I'm going to say this is probably not what you want to hear, but I'm like, don't do it if you don't want to grow,
Hmm.
because it is a, like, you have to commit to following the steps and like the learning. If it's like, if you just want to read a book and be able to hear things but not actually put it into practice, it's not going to be the program for you. But if you're willing to take the things that you guys are coaching on and be able to implement it and find the ways in your markets and your networks to be able to implement, it's yeah, it's gonna be a game changer for your business, because I know it was for us.
Awesome, man. Really appreciate you sharing that. Any
Yeah, man.
final words of wisdom for anybody, who's looking to grow their video agency before we wrap today?
Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. There are seasons, there are highs and lows, and every low you are experiencing for a reason, because it's going to make the highs that much sweeter. um, and honestly, you learn way more in the lows than you do the highs.
Mm,
So
amen.
take everything as a learning opportunity, and keep creating, keep being curious, and yeah, don't grow up too quick.
Love it, dude.
Life's
Awesome.
meant to be fun.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on here, dude. I'm excited to
Yeah, man.
continue working with you guys for another year and another year after
Yep.
that, and so on.
Yeah, man.
It's gonna be great. So, thank you
Yep.
guys for checking out this episode of the Wealthy Creative Podcast. And if you have any, if you're thinking, Landon, you know what, like, I do want to grow. I do want to, actually get to my goal faster. And no matter where you're at in your journey, we can help you get there faster. We've done
Mhm.
that time and time and time again. And Mason is an amazing example of that and of what's possible when you do put the work in, you execute, and you get some outside help to really take this thing to the next level. So if you want, there'll be a link at the bottom where you guys can book a call with our team, and look forward to talking with you soon. So thanks again, Mason, for coming on. Appreciate you, bro. And I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lana.
Bet.